Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of 30 games for Oculus Rift. I'm Gia and I'll be your guide today. Apologies for the wait, but with the distractions of the Christmas season finally over and my own fangirlish obsession with Dragon Age Inquisition finally waning slightly, we can get back into the world of VR exploration. Links for part 1 are in the video description if you missed that. Please like, subscribe and share if you feel like it, and here we go. Number 16, Deeper. We start part 2 of this video with a game in alpha called Deeper from South Korean indie developer RL Drum. I couldn't get the audio to work on this, but I still want to spend some time on it as it stood out amongst the crowd. It might be hard to believe when watching this on a 2D screen, but trust me when I tell you that this little game has one of the most interesting styles out there. The graphics feel intriguingly intricate and it's not something I've seen in more traditional digital media. I definitely felt an element of magic here. I can see this style being widely adopted in the future, and why not? When you play Deeper, your protagonist will feel like he's only a few inches tall and only a few inches away from you. I guess it would be similar to looking at a Warhammer model, only slightly bigger. The actual gameplay is straightforward. You control a small character who attacks their enemies using a fearsome mix of their big boot, and he or she is equipped with a gun which fires spiky landmine bombs. Kill enemies, get coin, progress further into the depths of the dungeon. Developers may also want to try out the mechanic that is used to aim the character's weapon. You collaborate with the character by looking in the direction that you want them to fire. If you are not convinced by this third-person perspective interface, then check out the talk at Oculus Connect by Dan Hurd and Paul Bettner, the developers at Playful Studios responsible for Lucky's Tale. VOX Machinae. Mech. Yes, this is the sound that you will hear as you control what is a massive JCB equipped with rockets, lasers, jetpack and blaster shield whilst being instructed by a sarcastic TomTom. VOX Machinae is one of the most complete VR experiences I have ever tried. It's got a kind of AAA feel about it, and this is still fairly rare in the early adopter experiences I have seen so far. I know it's not the most important thing in the world, but I also really love the Wayland Industry-like title screen. This game has been created by Vancouver-based indie game studio Space Bullet Dynamics Corporation. This studio is founded by Jakub Czesko-Sosaki, Josh Ennis and Alexander Gorshkov. Apologies for any mispronunciations there, but I thought these guys deserved a mention. You start this demo inside a well-crafted mech cockpit. The area feels solid and it's pleasing, which is probably important if you're going to spend some time in here. If you look behind you, then you'll find that there's accommodation too. I liked Hawkin as well, but this larger area just felt more spacious. Anyhow, you're then led through a tutorial and then placed into a smaller demo mission. This is going to be easier to show, so here you go.
Around using the left stick. Good work. Your skills now rival those of a chimpanzee. Adjust your grinder's throttle by pushing the left stick forwards and backwards. Now you're moving. To stop, push in the left stick. Push in the left stick to stop. That was the best button pressing I've seen in the last 5 minutes. To use jump jets, hold down the A button. Up and away. Fuel is limited but regenerates over time. The left stick lets you maneuver in the air. The directional pad makes
Next, I want to talk about Leap Motion and hand/finger tracking systems. Leap Motion produced the Leap Motion controller, which is a well-built optical peripheral that can be used for detecting hand and finger position. Their flagship product was kickstarted back in 2013 and initially touted as a general alternative user input device for things like your TV, your PC or your laptop. This device held the promise of a more intuitive replacement for anything which required two-dimensional tracking and opened up the possibility of novel control schemes which used the full range of the positional information, such as mapping your index finger to aim and mapping your thumb to zoom in Call of Duty. For VR experiences, developers tend to mount the device directly onto the front of the Oculus headset rather than leaving it on the table as shown in many of Leap Motion's regular demos. Putting the Leap Motion on the front of the headset allows the user to track hands and fingers within the space that corresponds to the direction that they are looking. You may want to check out Tomasz Mariancik's early work on using the two cameras on the Leap Motion as infrared pass-through cameras to change his Oculus headset into something which resembles a pair of night vision goggles. Leap Motion bolstered the amount of VR content on their App Store by running a VR game jam and giving away Leap Motion units to developers. There are now many Leap Motion demos available, and too many to cover in the small slots I have, so I decided to just select a few that will hopefully give you a feel of the kinds of experiences out there. Firstly, let me show you several demos that were provided by Leap Motion to show off the building blocks that Leap Motion controller developers can make use of. Leap Motion provide integration with Unity, and there is a community library available on UE4. This first demo displays the video feeds from the two Leap Motion controller cameras. Note that this stereo view is possible because the Leap Motion controller has two cameras, but also notice that the image does not provide any color information. This is because the Leap Motion is not using visible light to illuminate the scene, and the cameras detect this light only. This allows the Leap Motion controller to reduce the impact of external light sources which are usually in the visible range. This second demo shows the finger and hand positions that are being estimated by the sensor and then interpreted by the Leap Motion library. The estimated positions are mapped to 3D hand models which are then overlaid on top of the video feed. We now have an augmented reality experience. Notice how simple tasks such as pressing the odd key can now be done without removing your headset. Very useful. This third demo displays a large hamster cage-like sphere around you. The sphere gives you some indication as to how far you can reach out before the Leap Motion's detection system becomes ineffectual. Coloured balls with which you can interact are then introduced. This next demo is probably my favourite amongst the lot. I found that the Leap Motion experiences, which only required an approximation of finger position, worked well. So, all the demos so far have been augmented reality. Let me show you a few of the VR ones. This one is called Collider. Quite a trippy experience. The music and the visuals react to your movements. Robot chess. And then finally, probably my favourite, weightless. In this demo, you're a captain on a spaceship and you're waking up to your morning routine. Being able to use my hands to activate controls and navigate content definitely felt more natural and immersive than using my gamepad, keyboard or mouse. So, how did it all feel? Being able to see your own hands in VR is great. There is definitely something about this which makes everything feel more natural. The Leap Motion controller tracked my hand quite well whenever my hands were within 2/3 arm distance in front of my face, so doing things like punching a button that was nearby worked fine. However, anything outside of this range was no good. Additionally, finger tracking with the current version of the hardware and software is not robust enough to carry out basic tasks without thinking. Relatively simple tasks such as grabbing a pair of floating goggles was a challenge. Tech moves so quickly, so just to caveat this statement, I'm using version 2.2.1 of Leap Motion software. I do not really know enough of the detail of the challenges of finger tracking using optical devices to say what the limitations of this technique really are, but there are definitely challenges with the current techniques and, in particular, the problems of finger occlusion, which occur when a finger is behind something like your palm and therefore not visible to the camera. I have seen several finger and hand tracking systems so far, and after trying out Leap Motion's offering, I remain undecided on which way is the best. In case you're interested, check out Microsoft Research's finger tracker, which is strapped onto the wrist, their hand pose system, which uses a Kinect, an MIT system which just uses a coloured glove and a webcam, Dexmo's exoskeleton system which can do finger tracking only, and finally Nimble, the company that Oculus recently bought. Again, I've never tried the Nimble system, and on the surface, it seems to have a lot of similarities with the Kinect, which also uses a point cloud. If peripherals like Nimble can be integrated into an overall VR system and perhaps make use of the Oculus headset's position tracking camera as an additional camera, then occlusion issues may be reduced. To see this kind of thing, check out Oliver Kralo's demo, where he uses 3 Kinect cameras for capture.
The different Kinects merges really quite nicely. If I push the chair out of the way a little bit, let's see, maybe over there, and then look here at the back of my leg, you can see it.
Next up is a demo called Birdy Kingland from Backlight Studios, who are based in Paris. This is more like a theme park ride than a film or a game. A roller coaster ride with a story. The quality of this demo sets it apart from many of its contemporaries. It is polished. The energetic soundtrack, bright cartoony visuals, and great timing all tie up nicely into a super fun demo that makes you feel like you're in a Pixar short. You know, the ones they play before the main feature. A special hats off to the technical guys behind this as well, as it ran buttery smooth on my PC. The renaissance of VR has led to the resurfacing of many questions about VR's storytelling potential. You just have to go to the Oculus developer forums to see the debate. One of the questions that is raised is around the level of control that you should give your audience. In traditional media, we have examples like film where, for the most part, the audience remains passive, and then there are successful games with strong narratives such as Dragon Age, which asks players to make story decisions and has a great degree of character agency. This demo does not really answer the huge question of whether or not there is a right way to do things, but it does contribute to the answer by doing something that is different, and it does it well. Be warned that this is not one for those who are particularly susceptible to motion sickness, but for those who can hack it, this demo left the figurative 10-year-old child in me wide-eyed and gawping. New Retro Arcade. Okay, so this next one's a bit of an oddball. For various reasons, I'm only going to show you the New Retro Arcade's environment, but I'm not going to show you the actual games running. Note that this is New Retro Arcade, and it supports more than Retro Arcade did if you only tried that. This environment has been lovingly created. Prepared to be impressed by the detail. Don't worry about the low frame rates being reported on this video. I had a good 75 FPS when I was not capturing video at the same time as running this tech demo. What you should know is that New Retro Arcade is powered by a number of emulators: MAME, SNES, NES, Game Boy Advance and Game Boy. This means that all you see here works. Yes, it all works. The arcade cabinets, the dirty SNES attached to the massive TV, the Game Boys strewn around the room, the small bowling alley, the basketball machine, the ghetto blaster, they all work. Nekolus. This next demo is from Japanese developer Uda-san, and the premise is quite simple. Neko means cat in Japanese. The winning formula for cat lovers is to show cats. Better yet, show kittens. And lots of them. If you have a cat-loving friend, then watch them go through the 4 stages of Nekolusitis. 1. Shock and adjustment. They'll be in awe of the mewing, wide-eyed kitten presented to them. 2. Overload. They will begin to feel a loss of control as you increase the number of kittens in sight until the pitch of their voice is only audible to the smaller mammals which they're communicating with. 3. Realization and bargaining. They'll suddenly understand that there are no doors in the room and experience a slight panic as there's also no cat food within sight. After finally 4, acceptance. They'll be happily resigned to staying in this room, this windowless room, with a dozen kittens for the rest of their lives. Don't be shy about letting your cat-loving friend know that the experience is over once they reach the 4th and final stage. It's the best thing for all those involved. RealSpace Audio Tuscany. RealSpace is a 3D spatial audio processing technology from VisiSonics that Oculus has licensed. You can download a demo of RealSpace from VisiSonics' website. Within the demo, you'll be able to walk through a modified version of the familiar Tuscany environment and experience various 3D audio effects. 3D audio adds an additional level of realism that's not available in many current experiences. In many games, sound is attenuated as you walk away from a sound source. However, the granularity of such attenuation is usually low. For example, in this UE4 setup, there are only 3 volume levels for a noise-making object. High for when you are next to it, low for when you are further away, and then off when you are even further away. More subtle effects can be generated using RealSpace. Notice the sound trails off here. This is more like what we have in reality. Having such fine-grained control also allows the user to understand just by hearing that an object is directly above them, or slightly to the left above them, or slightly to the right above them. Put on some headphones and listen to these short video extracts, and the value that it adds will be obvious. To hear an even more powerful demonstration of audio realism, go over to audiocheck.net and check out their binaural demo. Make sure you have headphones on though, or it won't really work. I never get tired of that recording. Link below. Phonon. Phonon is another 3D audio solution, and you can download a demo of their technology from the Oculus Share. In this demo, you'll be able to switch the 3D audio on and off to hear the difference. You'll also be able to switch on a buzzing, glowing energy ball which will orbit around you so you can listen to the positional changes. Check it out if you're shopping around for a 3D audio solution. And here's another mech-related demo. Evil Mech Runner places you in a sci-fi environment and you need to run away from an evil mech, hence the name. The curveball that this demo throws is the control scheme. Running is detected by the up and down movement of your headset as you run on the spot. Running on the spot whilst wearing your VR headset to propel yourself forwards in the virtual world sounds like a very bad idea for those who suffer from motion sickness. I believe it's also against all Oculus health and safety guidelines as well. However, as a keen runner myself, I just had to give it a go to see what it was like, and very, very surprisingly, it really isn't that bad. In fact, it was great fun, and getting chased by a mech without any form of defense certainly focuses the mind. You really have to try this one out for yourself to understand how it feels. This demo reminded me of the Oculus Connect talk, where one of the Oculus researchers described a situation where they felt that the world scale within a particular VR environment felt completely wrong until they'd lifted the soles of their feet off the ground. Perhaps VR running is not as crazy as it seems. I guess this feels like running around with slightly loose sunglasses or glasses on. Your vision is momentarily blurred with each stride, but it doesn't feel all that bad. I had 2 runs and was fine, so have a go. So next what I want to show you is Valve's Steam VR interface. I've wanted to show this for a very long time now, but for various technical reasons I couldn't get my screen capture to work. Valve have played a major role within these early days of new VR, and it's always interesting to see what they're up to. This software is still in beta, and the version I'm showing you was released in January 2015. For now, this application will allow you to use Steam features that you'll be familiar with, such as the library and the store. The interface is displayed on a large virtual screen. Steam VR also includes a decent web browser. The user interface generally felt coherent. The integration with my Xbox gamepad was well thought out, and the transitions between the various screens felt slick. At the same time, I was still also able to use my keyboard and mouse when I needed to type, especially useful for web browsing. As you would expect with something that's in beta, there are features that feel like they're missing. For example, when you launch a game from your library, it will play on your main computer screen rather than your VR screen. Additionally, being able to access general entertainment such as Netflix or Amazon would probably seal the deal for me. Overall, this was a pleasant experience, and it would be the kind of thing I could see myself using as a home screen if it had a few more features. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the developments. Territory Defense. In this FPS created by indie developer Rick Dangerous, you're required to guard a couple of flags that NPCs will try to grab. You're armed with a rifle that fires what looks like flaming tennis balls. You can't look down the barrel of the gun like in some Hydra integrated games, but it's possible to swivel the gun on a virtual pivot. When you hit the enemy, they kind of change into jelly and collapse in a heap. Hitting the targets in this game is strangely satisfying. It's not as easy as just hovering a cursor over the target, and not random either. Kind of like the feeling you get if you hit a golf ball or a tennis ball the way you intended. You also have access to epic slow motion shots. I didn't expect much when I saw the basic graphics for this game, but territory defense is surprisingly fun. Again, not necessarily 100% comfortable for those who suffer from motion sickness, but good for those who are not too bad with it. Rick is currently giving the first couple of levels away for free over at the Rift Arcade, and you can grab the 5-level pack for just a couple of dollars. He's looking to cover the cost of the 3D assets and licenses he used. Go and check it out. Suwako Chan. Suwako Chan is a Japanese VR shoot-'em-up from UTG Software. In this game, most of the action continues to take place in one plane, but the developers allow the character you control and the projectiles to also move in 3D space, so you end up being able to do things like jump over a stream of bullets. The number of projectiles that you need to dodge seems crazy on a 2D screen, but it's actually about right once you're given depth perception. This is a good one if you're itching for the challenges of a hectic shoot-'em-up. This game runs smoothly and very comfortably. The Apparition within the Rift. This demo shows off the first floor of a haunted house VR game that Fansari is working on. Creepy sound effects definitely help generate the right atmosphere. Funnily enough, I found that not showing me anything made things worse, as I was anticipating all the way through my little tour. There really is a fine line between making something in the Rift fun whilst being scary, and then making something that many people find just too intense. Zero Point Demo. You can find the 0 Point film demo on Steam. The initial sequence in the IMAX-like 3D model of a cinema in this demo felt great. However, this demo is a little jittery on my PC for some reason, and the lack of position tracking at the beginning of the film made things feel uncomfortable. There was also some culling in the part where a buffalo walks close to the camera, which broke my sense of immersion. Unfortunately, I increasingly find that I don't have the greatest time with films that are mapped onto the inside of a globe or cylinder. Perhaps the films I've seen so far have all been too low in resolution, or usually just a little too close. I'm not sure yet. If you're interested in other methods of capturing content, you may want to look up Lightfield on the Oculus subreddit or Tomasz Marianczyk's YouTube channel. Some of the guys look like they're doing interesting work in this area, and it may lead to techniques that will allow us to capture content that looks better in VR.
Behavior change compared to other experiments.
Finally, I'd like to finish up on a small VR experience created by Matt Walker Entertainment called Body of the Night. Perhaps films in VR should be more like this in future. Enjoy this little story told in film noir style.
You know, if you're not going to talk about it, I will. All night long, she was practically throwing herself at you. And I saw the way you were looking at her, too.
Well, that's it. If you made it this far, then thank you so much for holding on. Rest assured, I'll be back on the internet diligently searching for interesting virtual reality content to try out and introduce. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, share it with friends, keep up to date with VR content by subscribing. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.